Here we go.
G'day fans and welcome to another exciting episode. It's a Wednesday night of Rip It Off the Card Yay team. It's all very, very exciting. We're sitting here, we're partying, we're getting down, we're doing the funky chicken as funky chickens often do. And of course, I'm here with Mr. Aaron. How you going, old son?
Excellent. It's good to see Dave and Angela already here as well. Dave was my Subway delivery man today.
Good old Dicko, first off the list. I tell you what, that's what you call faster than a speeding ticket. And good old Angela's right next to him. So, yay team, very, very cool. We've just got off the Easter long weekend, as the old man used to say, which was me. I never met a long one I didn't like, which was all very, very groovy. I know you had to work for the bulk of it. How was the old Easter for you, Mr. Aaron?
Oh, Easter was good. I was in the shop. We closed Good Friday, and we're closed on Anzac Day next week as well, of course. So 2 short weeks, but shock horror, Chad has COVID. So I've been working 7 days instead of 5 just to cover for him so the shop stays open. So I'm glad that it happened on a week where there's sort of 2 days public holidays that we close.
So the irony of that is the fact that Chad's got COVID, right? He's as sick as a dog. He's picked up the disease. And yet on Saturday, as has been announced today, we can now wear, as in employees, people who wish to frequent the store on a pseudo-working basis, don't have to wear masks anymore. So how good is that? So there you go. You can just take it all off and just let the COVID run free. You love it.
Yeah, come down on Saturday and see Dags and I take it all off.
And I'll tell you what, if you ask us nicely, we'll do it slowly. What can I say? So for people who don't know, I think everybody does know this, but for those who don't know, Aaron's obviously got his own collectible store, which of course is this one right here. It's in Shop 3. Now, if you're looking at this picture, you go, it doesn't really look like this. That's because the DC sign down here has currently got a big metal thing over the top of it because when a car ran into it a couple of weeks ago. But is a good opportunity for everybody to come on down, buy some stuff without any masks and have a whale of a time and just see us feel the freshness of the nerdy air on our faces. What do you reckon?
I think they'll actually make more money with masks on our faces.
Take it off. Absolutely fantastic. Hang on. What? In the total present, I don't know what I have no idea. This Wednesday, AD. Oh, it's like today. A guy named Aaron, not too different. I have no idea what Rusky Babes is talking about there. He's in a world of his own, but you two could be in a world of your own in Aaron's collectible store on Saturday. So, yes, it'll actually be very, very nice for us to be able to talk to people in the flesh. And, of course, my first week back after last week, I got the arse. I wasn't like working there. But now I'm back. You got more than a good excuse not to turn up. So, there you go.
So, yeah, we've
got
a lot of people turned up already. Good to see Michael here. Hi, Colin. Thanks, Russell, for the mystic, Dags read out. Yeah. And
very good.
Sorry? William probably here to tell us he's about to go and watch something else.
Good old no Facebook notification whatsoever. Oh my God! Tell you what, good old Facebook is just letting the side down today. But you're still here. That's the most important thing. So, yay team, very very cool. And we've got something very important we're going to announce later on too. So don't bugger off, everybody. I know William's got a habit of chitting in and then leaving us for something else. But stick around. Sarah's with us as well. Absolutely fantastic. So good stuff. Thomas is keen as mustard to come down on Saturday. You will be able to recognise us because we won't have any masks on. So what can I say? All right, we've got a really, really cool show tonight. We're talking about the old MCU a bit later on. But before we do that, we've got something mega, mega cool. And it's a little bit of this. Mr. Aaron, what are we talking about tonight? A new collectible-wise, old son?
Well, I guess it depends what order you're going to show the slides, but there's a little bit of everything tonight. What I thought was pretty interesting was Lego have got the rights to do Muppets. And so we're getting a series of Muppet Lego minifigures, which is absolutely amazing. I know I'm going to be feeling the bags to see if I can find the animal. How about you?
Hey, well, when you said you're feeling the bags, I was thinking, where's he going with that? So, yes, I got to say, this has got winner, chicken dinner written all over it. The money is going to be pouring out everywhere for people to buy these things. They do look pretty damn good, actually. So, I've got to say, they've done a very good job. I can't imagine the designers must have spent yonks putting these together. but they look pretty spectacular.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed. You've even got the vegetable, the tomato there with a little face on with the Swedish chef. So they're very, very accurate to the series.
Is that what that was? I looked at that and I thought, hang on, he's holding a severed head. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, the Swedish chef has just taken out Red Skull from Captain America in one of those crossovers that everybody would love to see.
Yep, love it. No, it looks good. No, they do look very good. They're sculpted well. A lot of the Muppet stuff has always looked very, very groovy. So, yes, I reckon there'll be a lot more of this stuff coming out too. What do you reckon?
For those who don't know, when I was saying feeling the bag, these come blind bags. So you buy a little bag and you don't know which one you're going to get. And the sneaky people will feel and feel and feel till they work out what one is in there. This is actually one of those lines where every single figure seems to be pretty good. Some of these ones where you buy a blind bag, you want Batman and you get like a third tier villain that you've never heard of. But this one, all the Muppets they've chose are sort of the headline Muppets that you wouldn't mind putting in your collection. Everyone has their favorites, of course, but I think this is going to be a hit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's that's why I think the designers spent a lot of time working out what these guys are going to look like. I think it's interesting that, was it Professor Bunsen or Dr. Bunsen is actually holding a beaker, and of course, Beaker's standing right next to him. So there you go.
Yeah, so it's one of those things, isn't it? So I think
sorry, go on.
Sorry, this is the next wave of blind bags coming out, so they'll be in the shops pretty soon.
Yeah, I can imagine they'll probably do more characters as they go along. And one of the ones that I absolutely love is this one. I think it's Waldorf and Statler, if I'm not mistaken. Not to be confused with these two, who also look like Waldorf and Statler. So, yes,
well, I know they were mouldy old coots, but if you have a look at the picture, I didn't know they were supporting the Russian war. If you see, he's got like ZZZ on his thing that he holds up.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it does too. Oh, yeah. I didn't ever notice that before. Yeah, just there. So, yeah.
I am joking. That is often because they thought the axe would put them to sleep. But it is very cool set, and it's really, really good to see that the Lego are doing the Muppets.
Well done indeed. Did they make Sweet Turns? I don't know.
No, that would be an oversized one, wouldn't it? That was the big hairy monster.
Yeah, Sam Eagle's probably another one there. That'll come in wave 2. So sit tight and don't be surprised. Like with the band, they did Animal, they did Janice, but they haven't done Dr. Teeth or Zoot or Floyd, any of those guys yet. So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Room for expansion.
Yeah, exactly right. Wave 2 when you least expect it. And of course, yes, good old Gonzo, you know, a bit of Gonzo. But yes, being able to get the band together is very, very groovy. And as we've seen, like in your store, you actually do have Muppet figures already. And the one thing about the Muppets, like it's a very, very unusual thing. Regardless of the physical size that they make them, the likeness to the actual puppets is absolutely spectacular. It just looked like they've walked off the screen. It's really, really good. Yeah. So good stuff. All right. So, sorry, you're going to say something?
I was just going to say, I think we're sticking with Lego for a couple of...
Yes, you are too. So, all right, the trailer for this came out only a couple of days ago, but stuff the trailer, go straight to Lego.
Yeah, and they've got stuff in the Lego that isn't in the trailer, so possibly that's a spoiler. Yep, some of the images have already come out for Thor, Love and Thunder. I think there's just 2 sets. The Dragon Boat one is interesting because it's very, very Viking with the goats pulling it there, and you've got... the Norse mythology, which they haven't really done much of in Thor, too much apart from that he is Thor. It's all been Guardians of the Galaxy and space in the last couple of movies. So there's a couple of interesting sets coming out. I fall in and out of love with Lego, and I haven't really thought there's been any really amazing superhero sets that I must have for a while. So it's interesting to see those, but I don't know if they totally grab me. But this next Lego set we're going to show, I think, is an absolute ripper.
Well, before you get onto that, quick question. You obviously saw the trailer for Love and Thunder. Thoughts off the top of your head?
I thought it was really good. I thought it was a good trailer because it didn't really give much of the plot away other than it continues on with Thor being with the Guardians of the Galaxy. That said, if you read the description of the trailer, that gives you all the spoilers. So probably if you're checking out the trailer, just watch the trailer and don't read the description that they've posted with it, kind of thing. I thought it was great. What did you think?
Take it or leave it. You know, you've seen so many Marvel trailers now. It's just like it's hard to have one that stands out as being a good one. It's all very, very flashy. I mean, the introduction of was it Guns N' Roses, the song, "Sweet Child of Mine" or something like that. And it was like, Yeah, okay, I kind of didn't get that, but you know, it came and went. It was like, yeah, whatever. I'm sure if you were to compare it to previous trailers, I don't know if it would cut the mustard, but
I,
yeah,
I
whatever.
think the thing with Thor is the first two movies had one particular tone, and then when they went to Ragnarok, they changed tone. And this one is obviously in the same tone as the Ragnarok movie, which is fine by me because I thought that was the superior one out of the three that they've released so far.
Very cool. Sarah was very happy with the song choice, which is kind of groovy. Just getting back to the Lego thing, Christy said, I can't say that I hate the toys are giving away so much about the movies. That happens all the time.
Yes.
It's very, very common for toys to come out before the films, and they'll have names of characters or they have things written on about them. You go, oh, I didn't know that was going to be in the film. And yeah, it's so if you don't want to know anything, I mean, it's hard these days with social media, you stay away from everywhere if you really want to remain spoiler free. So.
Lego and soundtracks are particularly bad for spoilers.
Speaking of which, Thomas has Lego's Masters on mute in the background at his place. So there you go. Very, very cool. Well, if he's excited watching Lego Masters building shit, maybe we reckon they can build one of these. A bit of Jurassic Park.
Now, this is great. This is one of the next sort of big Lego sets that is coming out. Now, there will be a range of Lego for the new Jurassic World movie. But do you know what? Well, not everyone, but I love the classic Jurassic Park better than anything they've done recently. And this one is a set that they're releasing of one of the iconic scenes, of course, the T-Rex paddock where it escapes and tips over a car and pushes the other car into the tree and stuff. So that's a really amazing set that I think is fantastic. And then on the left there's a little bag that sometimes they put out as promos and giveaways, and it's a Lego figure with a block of amber with an insect in and a little tiny dinosaur in a petting pen with an egg there. So they're gearing up, obviously, for the new Jurassic World movie, which is out, I think, in about a month or two from the trailers that they've been showing. What did you think of those sets?
Yeah, the one on the right looks very, very groovy with the Jeeps. It's very funny because Jurassic Park turns 30 years old next year. So you think these sets would have come out like freaking 20 years ago. But yeah, they do look very, very, very groovy. And even though I'm not a proponent for promoting other videos on YouTube, there's a dude out there called Owl Kitty. He's getting his cat and he's putting his cat into movie scenes. And there is a really good, it's very well done, I've got to say. I mean, where he's replaced the T-Rex with his own house cat. And the cat's enormous, right? Just in this sequence. And it's very, very, from a visual effects perspective, it's fantastic. And there's hundreds of millions of bloody views and shit. So when you watch that, come back and watch us. Yes, very good stuff. So, yes, a bit of Jurassic Park never goes astray. The Vial. Aaron, where do you stand on the Lego Jurassic Park Lego animated?
Yeah. I like the first series. I haven't watched the second series. I liked I've forgotten his name. He does the voice. It reminds me of the kid from the Goldbergs whenever I watch it because you've got the lead actor from that doing it. Yeah, I thought it was good. It's one of those series that is fun for kids and adults can watch too because it's not too kiddie. So that's my mini review.
Very good. Williams asked, where's the lawyer on the dunny? Yep, exactly right. That'll be an expansion set. And Christy said he's in Rex's tummy, which is kind of groovy. And Thomas has said, loves it. It's really imaginative and lots of fun. I mean, it would be too, which is particularly groovy. What? Did he get the idea? Cat from the Goodies? Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Did he get the idea with the Cat from the Goodies? I don't know. You can check it out on YouTube. After you've watched this, don't leave us. Don't do a William and leave us to watch that. So there you go. Speaking of the theme of Jurassic Park, sorry, William, we've got to keep hanging shit on you for that. Speaking of Jurassic Park, when you want absolutely fantastic items, you go, you know what? Just paint them different colors and you can just release them as different objects because that's what they've done here. How good is this? Was it Charlie Delta Echo? What do you reckon?
It is. So X Plus, which are one of the larger statue companies, are releasing all of the raptors from Jurassic World, and they are Charlie, Delta, and Echo. Now, you say they're just repaints, but they are in slightly different positions with their mouths and stuff. But it is one of those things where why release three different versions of almost the same thing at the same time? On the plus side, you look at that picture there, they look like the screen accurate animals. The background helps a lot, of course, but when you get to that level of detail, it's pretty amazing when you see them. These are 1/10 size, so they're not absolutely massive, but they're definitely got the detail in them for the size to make them a very impressive display item if you do like your Jurassic Park stuff. So what did you think of these, Dags?
Yeah, pretty groovy. Two things. Chrissy's asked, where's Blue? Yep, good point. and you're saying, oh, they are slightly different. And in fact, if you look at these pictures, they're identical to each other. They just happen to have slightly different color schemes, which of course makes sense. What else are you going to do, right?
The one in
So
the
even like you
the
look at
one
that
in-
picture there, which was hang on, which is identical to that picture there, which is identical to that picture there, right? All the pictures, all the photos are identical, except the paint job is slightly different. So
one in the middle has an open mouth.
so what? You open, it's probably articulated, you knob. So
It's a statue. They're not articulated.
how do you know? You might just jam it, open it, whatever else. So, but it would have been the same mold. They wouldn't have molded 3 different raptors for this scene.
I do agree with you. It is one of those things where they've done 3 for the price of 1 in the molding process to make them hopefully a little bit cheaper for everyone to be able to collect. Sometimes they do. Sometimes toy companies do this because they don't want the items to be massively, massively overpriced. And if they released 1, you might have to pay $500. But if they release 3, they might only be $300 each. So that might be
part of the gag is when they did Jurassic Park, the movie in the first place, one of the things that they said is when they designed all the dinosaurs, they said, we know what they look like from the skeletons and we've got all the bone structure and shit figured out. What we don't know is what color they were, right? They got nobody knows, right? They could have been pink with yellow polka dots for all we know, right? So when you got the 3 raptors there, you can have any color you want because nobody knows what color they really were. And that kind of works. So you can have a slightly greenish one, a slightly brownish one, and whatever. Yes, which actually works quite well. And the fact that there were 3 of them is particularly groovy. And you can have a whale of a time with that. So
if they had gone with a different look, instead of Delta, Charlie, and Echo, you could have had Gingham, Plaid, and Tartan.
Good on you. Well, Klaatu, Barada, Nikto. And of course, you don't have to do the Jurassic World version. You can just do the one from the original movie because there was 3 raptors in that. So very cool. Gavin's not happy. Cheap crap. He's not going for it. So there you go. Yes, Gavin said, they had red skin to run faster. Yeah, exactly right. Put some speed stripes on them or paint flames on their nostrils or whatever. So, I didn't answer your original question. Yes, I thought they looked very, very groovy. And if you like to be able to put them in different places and poses and whatever, have a whale of a time with that. So it's particularly groovy. What can I say? Yes, you are right. An orange and purple T-Rex isn't so intimidating. But what if they were that color? Wouldn't that be that? You travel back in time, you build a time machine, you get your TARDIS, you go back to 50 billion years ago, you walk and go, who would have thought? Ring up Steven. Steven, change the colors, mate. You wouldn't believe it. They're all yellow.
What Christy is actually saying is the Wiggles and Barney the dinosaur are more accurate than Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. Color. We were talking at the Muppets earlier, so you never know.
Yeah.
All right, we need to move on. Now, I'll tell you what, those particular items, those Jurassic Park items, look absolutely spectacular, as we said. But I'll tell you what doesn't look spectacular, even as an alien sort of thing. It's got to be this.
Useless Pop of the Week!
Now, we've got some kind of blurry photos of this, so it's not the best picture in the world. But what are we looking at tonight, Mr. Aaron?
Well, the photos are probably blurry because he's an imaginary person. They thought he was an imaginary person when I was growing up. He was Big Bird's best friend. It's Mr. Snuffleupagus, and they've actually made a pop of Mr. Snuffleupagus. Now, the thing that worries me about this, they make pops in different sizes, and Mr. Snuffleupagus is quite a huge creature, yet he's pop-sized and scaled down and doesn't really look that great. In fact, that picture kind of looks like a big turd, really, doesn't it?
That sort of just sums up the whole pop vinyl sort of industry, doesn't it? So there you go. Oh, Chrissy's going for it. So yes, there you go. Turd with legs. You can, even Thomas is going for it. Just I tell you what, you can make some jokes over that, eh? It's like,
didn't you at the start of the show say you've never seen a longie you didn't like?
Oh dear, something a tad whiffy about this particular one. So you're trying to tell me that this isn't much chop, is that right?
No, and what disappoints me about that, they've really gone for it, and they've done different versions of this pop, like it was really wanted in the first place.
Yeah, so I've got another photo to show you. It's unbelievably bad quality. So I looked at this and I thought, yeah, okay, cut them a bit of slack. They've made this Snuffleupagus dude, right? But when they did it like that, it's a platinum version. That's like, what? They've spray painted the poor bastard.
A chrome version. It's like the hooligans in Sesame Street came along with their spray paints and the graffitied the whole of Mr. Snuffleupagus. As an aside, I have to say I'm pretty disappointed. When I was growing up, the big joke was he was an imaginary friend that whenever he tried to get introduced by Big Bird to anyone else, he wandered off and they never saw him and they thought Big Bird was a liar or he's a man. Then I watched Sesame Street again with my son, and now everyone knows him. It's just like a big mammoth that wanders in and out of Sesame Street. No imagination.
Yeah, I don't get the whole thing with the Chrome. That's just ridiculous. But I will tell you now, normally I don't put these comments on the screen, but this one I'm going to allow, right? Even though we're kind of breaking the law here. So the Vile said, back to the original version, which is that version there, right? Yep. He said, and I've just got to move up because scroll past. The Vile said it's a hairy penis with feet, right? And down here, of all people, Rusky Babe said, geez, Mr. Vile, you're lowering the tone. It's like, and then the Rusky Babe said you can't polish it too much.
Well, I don't know if we've got the picture of the other one there, but it gets even worse. They released a flocked version, which is, of course, a hairy version of it. I don't know if the picture is good enough quality. So you've got the original turd, the shiny turd, and the flocked turd.
I love this one from Christy. She says, the first one was all, oh no, now it's all pure. So, yeah, look, the Chrome thing is like that. They've just resprayed it, obviously, and it's just like, mate, cash in on a few extra bucks. I mean, that's just bullshit. So, yes, Maltese Snuffleupagus. Oh my God, just trying to spell that is actually quite hard. So there you go.
Really
very, very good. And Mark is still pushing for the fact that there should be pops of us, which is particularly groovy. The Vile did design them a while ago, plus Sarah as well, and then Greg King and himself, which is kind of groovy. But yes, currently we are not around. So, scratch and sniff if you don't mind, umpire. So what the hell's the deal with that? Very, very good. All right, so Snuffleupagus, whatever his name is, kind of isn't much chop. Is that what you're trying to tell me there, Mr. Aaron?
Well, that's why I chose it as the useless pop of the week.
Yeah, especially the premium one. The Chrome one. That's just rubbish. Anyway, speaking of rubbishy things, it's time for us to move on because there's a little time for a little bit of this. All right, so what are we talking about tonight then, Mr. Aaron? What have you been buying this time?
Well, what has Greg been buying this time? There's a bit of everything. There's buying, there's selling, there's correspondence. Nothing's turned up this week. When everything turns up, it's going to be a reviewing bonanza, really.
True.
So I thought this was excellent. If we actually get it, I'd be really, really impressed. This is one of the things that, wandered onto Greg King's feed and he has got us to buy to test out for him. They are actually prop replicas of the Critters figures, Critters creatures from the 80s horror movies. And they come in two different colors. They come in green and they come in red. And not being a type, Greg King, we've bought one of each. So we've got two replica Critters coming.
And he's just in time. Very good. So you decided to lash out and grab a couple, eh?
Yeah, because if you bought one, you got them for $29. And if you bought two, you got free postage and an extra 10% off. And you can never have too many critters, can you?
Yes, exactly right. So surely whatever turns up can't be any worse than how they look in terms of like their nastiness. So that is particularly groovy.
If we get them to Greg and release them in his garage sale, they might actually eat a lot of the crap that's down there, and we might be able to reset it for a new start later in the series.
Now, exactly right. How's this? Mick actually watched Critters 1 and 2 a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, how about that? So, if you do get these in the store, good old Mick could be down there picking them up to buy the damn thing. So, yeah, very, very groovy.
If you get them in the store, they'll be surprisingly expensive.
Yeah. Oh, don't go down that path. Oh, yes. Aaron gets these. He actually promotes the fact that he gets these things in these websites really, really cheap, and then he just inflates the prices a little bit and sells them in the store, and people buy the damn things, as we'll discuss a bit later on. Now, Sarah's watching this episode at the moment, and her other half is a massive Indiana Jones fan, and if you're going to get in the Indiana Jones stuff, mate, you got to start lashing out for the old Grail Diary. What do you reckon?
I know. So we had a few people, Christy and also Moneybags, sent me messages like the dead links back up and Indiana Jones like junk stuff is available for sale again. So as the headpiece for the staff of Ra turned out to be one of the few items that was good, I've ordered a couple of things. I've ordered the Grail Diary. Now this is the one that Dr. Jones Sr. had when he was tracing down the Grail in Last Crusade, and you can see it actually looks quite good. It looks hand bound and handwritten. It comes with all these prop replicas from the actual movie. It's got train tickets and newspaper cuttings. What did you want to point out, Dags? You obviously want one of these.
Yeah, I want to know, does it come with or without the Adolf Hitler signature, which looks nothing like the real Adolf Hitler signature?
Well, I tell you what, I'll sign the Adolf Hitler signature in myself and see how that goes.
Very
But it is also supposed to come in a replica of the mailing package that it got to Dr. Jones in. And I'm telling you, if it frickin' comes in that, I'll eat my hat live on the show, because there is no way that the lovely people in AliExpress are going to make a replica of the packaging and send it to us.
That would be ironic. And of course, the funny thing is, if the packaging actually looked really good, but the diary itself looked shit, and of course, you'd have to open the package to have a look. So I tell you what, if you have to do that on air, you're going, what do I rip it off the card or leave it in the packet? What do you do?
I can tell you now, I can already see the conversation where I email them and say, on your website, you advertise screen accurate packaging, and it came in like a box with padded material and not like that. And they'll go back and go, you're very lucky. We sent it in better packaging than the movie showed, or something like that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it would make for a fantastic Greg King's Cheaper Things segment. But hang on, if a Grail diary isn't your cup of tea, right? If that's not working for you, well, you got to go the full Sankara Stone and the hat sort of treatment. What's the deal?
Well, the hat isn't part of it, but I did buy one of the stones, and it's a light up version. I could have bought one or three, but I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to buy the one, because I don't know if I want three of these weird things.
You wuss. Greg King is a wuss.
Well, you can see I've added in another headpiece to the Staff of Ra there. I'm hoping it's to the same quality as the last one. Now, wouldn't that be funny if the first one we bought turned up and it was accurate, and this second one turns up and it's like a wooden piece of crap or something?
So for people out there who haven't put two and two together, Aaron said he's ordered another headpiece of the Staff of Ra. Why? Because when the one turned up, he sold it for an extra $60 profit in the store. So that's where the mindset is coming from that perspective. Well, so I'll tell you what, if the headpiece this time does turn up and it does look complete shit, I am going to laugh my head off at your expense.
But you know what? Someone's got to bankroll this show, because selling all the pieces for $2 in Greg King's garage sale doesn't get me anything.
Yeah, exactly right. So a good old Zach has joined us too. It's like, hey boys, yeah, you've come at a good time there, old son. But yes, that's the reason why he wants the head. And you watch Aaron will go, you know what? Instead of headpiece of the Staff, I'll give you about 20 of the damn things. Just have a whale of a time making money off that. So very good. You are right, Gavin. Yeah, Indy does get his rocks off, which is particularly groovy. Oh, that's cool, Mark. Yeah, they look like they're from Dusk, the place that smells stinky stuff. So I don't mean your store either.
Well, I'll get it and I'll go, what's this wick? And it'll be a Sankara Stone candle or something.
Or it's one of your staff members, who's just recovering from the COVID crisis. So there you go. Very, very good. So that's the sort of overview of stuff that's going on. And this is all the bits and pieces you've got coming. You still haven't got your Hobbit home yet, have you?
I know. And the Maltese Dragon was no good replacement for the Maltese Falcon. So supposedly in the post at the moment coming for us is a replica of the Maltese Falcon, a terrarium with a Hobbit home in, the headpiece to the Staff of Ra, a Grail diary, Sankara Stone, the Grail diary packaging, a replica of Audrey 2, which is like a piranha plant thing, totally described differently, an Alien light-up playset, a Michael Myers light-up playset, some Star Wars cards, and 2 different critters. So we are chockers with stuff that's meant to be coming to us. Nothing came this week, though.
Tell you what, it's gonna be like Christmas at the time. Imagine it all just rolls up at once. I mean, that would make. Imagine that in this segment where we just open up all this shit on camera in front of everybody. That would be very, very groovy. I reckon that would be a huge hit for people watching this show. I like this one from Zach. I need to buy a headpiece of Aaron from time to time. So yeah, exactly right. And believe it or not, if you made a few bucks off the first one, you'll definitely try it again the second time around. So we've got some correspondence from AliExpress regarding your whole saga, the Maltese Falcon, which is now a Maltese Dragon, etc., etc. For those who have been following this story, and there's a little bit of this.
So last time, for anyone who wasn't here, we've been having a correspondence with AliExpress over not sending anything that looks remotely like what they advertised. We got a little dragon statue instead of the Maltese Falcon, and here's where we're up to. Hey, Aaron, thank you for bringing these reviews to my attention. Now, I had just sent some online reviews telling them, showing that they were a lot of crap. Not real reviews, probably from jealous competitors. Trust the reviews on our site. They are all our site. So direct reviews are about us and our product. Lucky for us, they are all 5-star. Do not make the Soul Greg King investigate more. It is a waste of time, and you will probably get your items and be happy very soon. Piranha decoration without pot, movie prop, horror, Halloween, unique flower accessory is one of my top favorites. If you have any problems, don't hesitate to contact. All the best, Ronnie. And I just, dear Ronnie, I await my order with anticipation. All the best, Aaron. So we will see if, I love how you will probably get your orders. Like, they're not even guaranteeing I'll get the orders I've put in. They never fail to impress with the correspondence. I do wonder, is it serious correspondence or are they winding me up?
I'll tell you what, if they are winding you up, they would be laughing their heads off as they're typing this stuff out. They would have a good old time. I love it. Absolutely fantastic. So there you go. Very, very cool. But having said all that, sorry, you're going to say something?
Yeah, William was saying about an unboxing video. Maybe I can film it as I unpack it and we can play it on the show. It's a bit hard to do it live because me moving boxes around doesn't make for good viewing when you do it live, but it's a possibility.
I like this one from Mick here. Oh, Ronnie boy. Yes, exactly right. So absolutely love it. But having said all this, right? So Greg King is lashing out buying all this rubbish, right? And it's turned up to Aaron's store. Some of it is actually on display in a glass cabinet if you want to go and check it out. But Aaron, being the industrious type that he is, says, well, I've got this rubbish. It is utter tripe. I'm putting it on this show, and it is complete shit. But if somebody wants to buy it, I'm prepared to jack up the price a little bit and offload these things, as he did with the headpiece of the Staff of Ra. What else do you reckon that he has bought and received recently do you think Aaron would sell off? Well, as it turned out, someone bought probably the most unluckiest luck dragon of all time, because when you look at it, it looks like it's been chasing parked cars, and you actually sold this. Yeah,
so if people remember, we ordered 3 soft toys. There was the Worm from Labyrinth, the Luck Dragon from Neverending Story, and Sididimus from Labyrinth. And all of them came and they were horrible and horrendous. They cost, I think, about $12.50 each to land. So I put them at a very reasonable $29 each in the shop, and the Luck Dragon sold instantly.
What's the deal? He actually had it on the top of a shelf. When you looked at it, it's like, mate, that looks like it's going to like scare children. But yes, the Luck Dragon is Falcor has flown out of the store and is in the sort of possession of somebody else now. So what do you reckon?
Well, it's sold. Greg King, you did it again.
He did indeed. Yes, exactly right. Sorry, I forgot to push the right button at the right time. So there you go. He did. Good old Greg King, always able to make a few bucks out of other people's dodgy products. And I like this from Colin. Yes, it is from a dodgy Ronnie. So there you go. Good old dodgy Ronnie. Absolutely fantastic. So there you go. Good old Greg King. He has done it again. And yes, you can still see his garage looking particularly groovy. What do you reckon, old son?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the Luck Dragon is in that picture, but it's sold straight away. Yes, his garage is a mess. It's still probably the ground zero for infestation that it has been since we opened this show and this section to the public. But the next couple of weeks will be interesting to see what turns up.
Very good. Mick said it looks like a manicured Shih Tzu. What's a Shih Tzu? A zoo with no animals. There you go. Very, very cool. And with that in mind, it is time to go on. Hang on. Gavin has asked, I still hope you have pics of all the sold items in the store. I don't really know, but the actual items that are still there, which are available to purchase if somebody is stupid enough to do that, feel free to come on in and buy some bits. So, yes. What do you reckon?
Yeah. We're getting to the point where at some point we might have to do as our main feature a retrospective of the last year of Greg King, of the stuff we've ordered, the stuff that's turned up, and all the correspondence, so anyone can catch up all in the one place if they need to.
And if you're going to do that, one of the things that you want to do is sit down, relax, and enjoy it with a treat. And, of course, there's no bigger treat in the entire universe than, of course, the Lord Vile's Vile File. And what are we talking about tonight, there, Mr. Aaron?
Well, he's got some treats you'd like to suck on tonight, that's for sure.
Give them a good... They call the Timex treats. So they take a good licking, but they keep on ticking.
So again, we've got some correspondence, and the correspondence has influenced the way the show has gone. Dear Lord File, I love your show and the segment. I love your show, and the segment always makes me laugh. Now the show is the Vile show. It's not ours anymore. Isn't that fantastic?
Yep.
I cut out a bit of sycophantic banter and just got to the point. I remember character Icy Poles growing up. Do you have any favourites? Mine was the Smurfy one, and I found a picture of the Smurfy one. So the Vile was asked, does he have any character ice lollies that he has particular favourites?
You didn't even write down who wrote the message.
I was in a rush today.
So. Oh, there you go. Very, very good. No, Rusky Babes, you don't do that. You actually take a bit of time with them. Jeez, where am I going with this? All right, let's go. What are we talking about tonight, man? Just let's move on.
So, Vile Ice Treats, and this is for Alan Cole, I think, sent in the request for this. So Alan, I think, usually watches after the show, not live, but there you go. So Vile Ice Treats, and we're going to have a look in the... well, first, I'm talking about ice treats in the fridge. You've got some pretty vile stuff in your fridge. You've got like a Batmobile that's like how many years old?
Yeah, so I've got a few things living in my refrigerator. So currently in my butter drawer is a Batmobile, a chocolate Batmobile from Batman Returns. Has been there for 30 years this year, in fact, which is particularly groovy. And just not far from behind them is some ice creams that are still in the freezer from 1995 and 1997. So how good is that? Mate, there you go. That'll leave a mark if you decide to chow down on one of those.
We've just had Easter. You weren't tempted this festival of chocolate to try nibble on your Batmobile?
You know what? A lot of people have come to my place and said as a joke that they're going to munch down on this stuff. I'm thinking, yeah, the hospital bills you're going to get after that is like, imagine trying to explain to someone, oh, I ate a 30-year-old chocolate Batmobile. That's probably why my guts are all exploding everywhere. It will leave a mark. What can I say? Yeah. Very, very cool. Okay, good stuff. All right, so we're moving on with it. Hang on. Sorry, I cut you off. So what were we going to say?
I was just going to say, let's get a look at the first Vile Ice Treats. Now, all of these are based on characters. These are all real ice treats that you can buy for your kids, and they will love you for it. So we've got one of the Powder Puff Girls there, and we've got Dora the Explorer. So probably both ice treats that would be appropriate for little girls. Well, I don't remember that episode of Powder Puff Girls where they become owl zombies or something like that, and that Dora is particularly bad looking, but I think the Vile has really got onto something here with some ugly looking ice lollies. Does your Batmobile look better than those ice lollies?
Yeah, I'd have to say so. I'm trying to work out what this thing is meant to. I know it's meant to be that, but what has it turned into? What's the blue thing on? That looks a bit wrong on a lot of levels, doesn't it? Yeah, you're right. Nightmare on Elm Street. I absolutely agree with you on that one. So there you go. I think I bet the kids love licking Dora and the Powder Puff. Oh, Jesus, not just the kids. So there you go. Oh, geez, Angela, child abuse. Oh, you guys are shocked. We're just showing you some vile ice creams for crying out loud. What are you guys all thinking about? So, yes, it's a bit wrong. What do you reckon, eh?
I don't know. It can only get better, can't it? Of course, we've got two favourites here. They're older, I guess, franchises. They've been around probably for close to 100 years now. We've got Tweety Bird and we've got Bugs Bunny. So they're both ones that would probably appeal to me if I wanted to have a cool ice treat and have something that I recognised as an IP from growing up. What about you, Dags? Would you like to have one of these?
Yeah. There's a lot of really inappropriate stuff being mentioned on the messages. No, I can imagine the Tweety Bird one. There's a whole lot of jokes coming from that, but let's just move on, shall we?
So the Tweety Bird one looks particularly stoned. I think it's the positioning of maybe their gumdrops or something in the eyes. And then the Bugs Bunny one, like if you pulled that out at Easter, kids are going to be terrorized all the way around to the resurrection.
Yeah, with Tweety Bird, you can just imagine it's like, I tore. A wacky tobacco. Yeah, exactly right. Oh, well, my goodness gracious.
The interesting thing about a lot of these, this is in all seriousness, obviously they've kind of looked munted because they've melted and refrozen. The Tweety Bird one looks like it's just a perfectly normal ice lolly, but it's the positioning of the the eyes that have just made it look weird. It reminds me of the end of Rosemary's Baby. What have you done with her eyes?
I like it, zombie Looney Tunes. Yeah, exactly right. That Bugs Bunny one, that's a bit of a, I can't imagine wrapping your lips around those chips. So there you go.
And here we've got two of Marvel's finest. We've got like a very accurate representation of the Wolverine and of Spider-Man as well. You do wonder how many of these ice lollies do they have to make before they realize it's just not a good idea? The thing that really does it for me, a lot of them have, like Bubble O Bill had a stick of bubble gum on for his nose. These have like lollies or something for their eyes, and it always sort of melts and deforms, and there's no way in a production process they can get everyone placed accurately. So it's really a lucky dip. You get an ice cube to your kid, and they're either going to get an amazing tasted looking great character, or they're going to get something that basically scars them for the rest of their life.
Yeah, I agree with Ange. Spider-Man does look like Deadpool, which is particularly groovy. Someone hit Spider-Man with a newspaper. Take that. Yes, exactly right.
So we've got here a couple of other favorites, Ninja Turtles and Pikachu. I grew up with Ninja Turtles. Pikachu was something my son grew up with from Pokemon. So let's see what the vial has provided with us for that.
We got the slides in the wrong order. So it's all right. There we go.
There we go. Now, I thought this one was particularly interesting because the Pikachu, most of them they've done heads, but this is a full body Pikachu, and it really does look like he's been run over by a car. Also, you would think the eyes were red, but that's actually his cheeks. So you've got this really weird zombie-looking off Pikachu that just hasn't come out right. I don't know what his ears are meant to be. They look like they've been bitten off. Then you've got, of course, the Ninja Turtle, which is the same as the Tweety, where they just can't get the eyes in the right position. So you've got maybe where Tweety looks stoned, this turtle looks like he's been banged by Shredder one too many times.
It's kind of funny, isn't it? Because, hey, the eyes just go where the band is, dude. So not up here and not down there, but they're sort of in there. But yes, well,
you've got one person on the production team, and they just have one job: get the eyes in the right place, and they still can't do it.
Yes, exactly right. And yes, right, Michelangelo baked in a pizza oven. Totally agree. Remember, forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza. So I like this one. Yeah, the fifth turtle. That's very, very cool. Yeah. Good stuff.
The fifth turtle was obviously painted by Picasso, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we've got one of the favorites on the Vial file, because SpongeBob has been particularly abused by the Vial over the episodes. You've got one of the characters whose name escapes me, the underwater squirrel girl on the left, and then you've got everyone's favorite square piece of SpongeBob. Like, what could they possibly do wrong with these?
I'm too busy thinking of the image of sponging yourself down, sponging the vial down with SpongeBob. So there you go. So long as he gets those hard to get places, that's the most important thing. That's probably why I got a smile on his face and that big nut. Anyways.
So the SpongeBob has been done so terribly, we've managed to find two of him. You've got like the evil demonic SpongeBob underneath, and then you've got the eyeless blind SpongeBob on the right. And then the squirrel is particularly good. I don't know what they were even going for with that, but it kind of looks like it's made out of what everyone said Mr. Snuffleupagus was made out of, doesn't it?
Have you discussed this guy over here yet?
Well, that's meant to be the squirrel that just looks like a turd on a stick with a couple of eyes poked into it.
Imagine giving that to your kids and say, there you go, little Johnny, tuck into that, old son.
Yes, who lives in a pineapple under the sea? Not those.
Oh, geez. Actually, it's the blue eyes that kind of do it, eh? It's really got the really possessed thing going on.
It really is. I don't know, how that got past quality control. Somebody thought it was a good idea. Somebody thought the kids would love it.
Oh, dear. Space may be rinsed one too many times. Oh, I love it. That's grouse. So there you go. So what are you trying to tell me about all these vile ice treats there, Mr. Aaron?
Well, there's a couple of extra ones slipped in there for your viewing pleasure. But what I'm trying to tell you about these ice creams, they've gone into the vials freezer and then they've become well and truly violated.
Absolutely fantastic. Oh, I gotta love that. That was particularly great.
Yeah.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
What will the vial bring next week? Who can tell?
Yeah, exactly right. Oh, yeah, the Rusky Babes. Yeah, right. The political debate is on at the moment. They could also debate as to which ice creams that they would like or not like. So, yes, very, very groovy. Oh my God, you can watch us or watch that. Decision or Lego Masters. Decisions. So there you go. Yes, violated and melted.
And
Very, very groovy. Huh?
I was quoting violated and melted. Exactly. Yep.
Yep, exactly right. All right, so it's time to move on to something a bit more interactive. Let's get straight into it. Away we go.
Ooh, baby, do you know that's what...
All right, we're moving from ice creams to something completely different. So, Mr. Aaron, what are we talking about tonight?
Well, because the main feature tonight, we're going to be looking at Marvel Comics and the MCU, I thought we would look at comics again on eBay, but we're not looking at the MCU Avengers series. We're looking at Spider-Man comics, and Spider-Man comics are some of the most sought after and desired comics there are. And we've just had an amazing Spider-Man movie that everybody loved. So the prices are quite inflated at the moment. So here we go. Hang on to your hats. It's Spider-Man comics on eBay.
Angie's already said 65 cents. Hasn't even looked at the item yet. I get the feeling he might be tad off on this one, but let's see.
So this is Amazing Spider-Man 300. It's been graded, so that means it's been sent off and come back with a 9.6, which is pretty much the best you're ever going to find. It's the first appearance of Venom. So people may know they introduced Black Spider-Man with a symbiont suit, and soon that suit began to influence Spider-Man and became a master criminal, Venom, an alien symbiont. So this is the first appearance in here in a comic, Spider-Man number 300. How much would you expect to pay?
So I'm sticking with Angie's 65 cents, and right next to that you got Gavin at $36,000. That's a bit of a contrast, isn't it? Thomas is at 24,000. Geez, I tell you what, some big dollars getting chucked around. Moneybags, who's used to having big dollars, that just sits in his wallet at 15 grand, is at 15,000, and that's on a bad day. Sitting next to all the moths that are growing there, and the very rich moths. Colin has said 10,000. Rusky Babes, $80. Oh, there we go. Mika said 6,500. Carol is at 96. Yeah, what a contrast, isn't it? Christy is at 28,500. William, who's still watching us after all this time, is at 30,000. Mark is at 45,000. Oh, it's a big money here, eh? So it's like winning the lottery. So there you go. Violating the Spider-Man, as one should often do, is the vial at 3,000 Spidey bucks. What do you reckon, eh? Unbelievable. Yes, it is graded at 9.6. That alone is got to be a good thing. And it is a particularly groovy. So what? And David, Dicko's joined us. He's chucked in a measly 2,800. One thing about good old Dicko, they're never asking for any money because he's always a little short. And Andrew's sticking with the 65 cents. Absolutely love it. So there you go. All right. So what do you reckon it went for, kiddies? Amazing Spider-Man number 300, graded at 9.6, yada, yada, yada. 1988. Absolutely fantastic. Was it 65 cents or was it tens of thousands of dollars? It went for a whopping $2,600.
I think David Dicko has it.
Tell you what, he might have slipped in at the last minute. He's not. I'll have a quick look around. But yes, Mr. Dicko, you might even get $200 back, old son. Anything you want to say about this dude? We'll have a look.
Well done. This is a very desirable comic. Venom is one of the more popular villains in the Spider-Man comic series. The movies they've had have been popular, but probably not as good as I hoped they would have been. But quite a collectible comic that's gone for $2,600. It costs you about $100 to get it graded. So pretty much anything that's graded, you're going to expect to pay at least $100. So, and you're not going to get it for 65 cents, mate.
No, definitely not. And Dicko, he slipped in right at the very end with his bid car. He's a happy little camper because of that. So with that in mind, check this out, kids.
Here is an interesting one. Amazing Spider-Man number 1. Now, this is one of the rarest and most desirable comics there is. It's graded 1, though, which just basically means it's been run over by a car or something. It is in very, very poor condition. Now, there is that old adage, if you are buying property, it's better to get the worst house in a good area than this is the same kind of thing. I would be getting the premium comics in bad condition rather than common comics in good condition. But how much will this go for? This one interested me because I was interested to see how cheap you could get a number one for. The record price for this comic in good condition is several $1 million.
I like how it's 1.0. At least it's not a point something or other. So it's still got room to breathe. So it's not as bad as it could possibly be. Ange has decided to go up a few bucks and gone to 2,500. Spider-Man number one. Golly, Gavin's at 36,000. Moneybag Sullivan is at 150 bucks. Oh, goodness gracious. How embarrassing is that? Colin is at 35,000. Thomas is at 4,500. Christy is at $26.50. I don't think that's going to happen. Carol's at 30,000. Mick is at 12,000. Natasha, the little dude. Good to see them joining the show. 25,000 bucks for them. You can almost buy yourself a new little dude with that price. Mark is at 10,000. Grade $1. I love it. Violating Peter Parker is only the vile cans at 20,000 bucks. And William, who's still watching the show, is at $30,000, which is unbelievable. So I tend to agree with you. The fact that it is busted up, but it is still the rarest of the rare, would have a lot going for it. Well, one thing for sure, it can't get any worse than what it is. And if you're never going to take it out of the packet and look at it, that is probably going to be a pretty cool thing. All right, so there you go. All right, the Amazing Spider-Man number one. And Dicko has slipped in at 25,000. Rusky Babes has chucked in 700. Right. So Amazing Spider-Man number one, the first appearance, I assume this to be, of the Spider-Man character, 1963, graded 1. So you get the best and the worst all in one package. What do you reckon it went for, kids? It went for a whopping 3,250.
I actually thought that was a good price. For that comic, which is quite rare, I've seen destroyed ones go for, probably 5,000 to 10,000 US, not Australian. Had I seen that, I don't think I'm financially solvent enough to grab it, but that would have been a good buy. I reckon you would be hard done to lose on that comic if you picked it up for that price. That is a very rare comic to see, even for sale.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on that one. Ange has said 25. He's $1,000, actually just under $1,000. I think you might have it, Ange. So there you go.
Yeah.
The one thing about it, though, is that despite its unbelievably bad condition, in time, its price will only go up. So it will never go down, that's for sure. And the more popular the Spider-Man becomes, the better it will be. So, yes, Ange, you got it. So well done. From your 65 cents earlier bid to something now, and you're a winner. Chicken dinner. Sorry, man.
Also, you can see the Fantastic Four in there, and the Fantastic Four are about to have movies made about them. And if they're good, that boosts up the price of that comic as well.
Yeah, exactly right. So very, very good. So good stuff. So, yes, amazing. But the fact that it still exists is pretty groovy. Be curious to see what the inside pages look like. But there you go. All right, we move on.
So here we have Amazing Spider-Man number 3. So this is a couple of weeks after that first one was published. You've got this one, and this has Dr. Octopus in it. So we've got number 3 from the same series. It is not graded. It is. It looks like it's in pretty good condition, though. So is there a big difference between a graded comic value and an ungraded comic value? Yes, there is. So will this still go for a high price, or will this be more moderate and affordable?
Yeah, that's a very good observation, actually. There are some people out there who don't go for the whole grading mindset, but having something that's pseudo-official or authorized, or however you want to put it, can't be a bad thing, but not everybody goes for it. All right, so Ange, who won the last one, has now decided to ramp up the dollars. He's gone for $8,500. Carol's at 4,600. Gavin's at 36,000. Christy is at 87. Oh, Greg King needs some more comics in the garage sale. $2. I cop that. Kicking good old Doc Ock while he's down. Colin is at 4,500. Natasha and the little dude decided to give me a really complicated number, 3,600 or something. Thomas is at 5,250. Mark is at 2,000. Mick is at 250. William is at 1,500. The last thing I would need is for everybody to give me all these really wacky numbers that are really close to each other, and then I'd have to try and decipher who won. Moneybag Sullivan has decided to ramp up the dollars, put the money back in the wallet to 15,000. Violating Spidey biting bucks is the violet 1,500, and Dicko is chucked in the lazy 5,000. He's got sitting around the house doing absolutely nothing at all. Amazing Spider number 3, Dr. Octopus, who of course was a bit of a big star in Far From Home. Is that Far From Home? No, it's No Way Home. One of those sort of movies, and particularly groovy stuff. So there you go. All right. And as you can see, he's got his hands full with Spider-Man. Very good. Okay, so what do you reckon it went for? 1963. Bloody hell. And it does look, I agree with you, in pretty neato condition. It went for a whopping 5,000 effing dollars. Jeepers creepers.
See, that's an interesting one, because if I had the money to invest, I would definitely have gone with issue 1 over issue 3. But you can see, because the condition's better, it's gone for more. So $5,000 for issue 3.
5,000. Yep. Sorry, Carol, you were close, but not close enough.
Yeah.
Hang on. Oh, hang on. You were there. No, it's still with Thomas. Thomas, you actually get a few bucks back, dude. So there you go. There's some pretty close ones there. What can I say? So very good.
Interesting thing about this is...
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Hang on. Dicko, sorry, because he barely put 5G. He didn't put the real number in. Sorry.
He went 1 cent over, so he loses.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, sorry, because Dicko doesn't. Dicko's always been, always sort of short on a lot of things. He decided to just not even put the full amount in. That's the reason why I missed it. So there you go. Thomas has called him Dixo. So there you go. And Dicko, yeah, he's won twice tonight. So well done. So yes,
pretty well.
Sorry, go on.
He's doing pretty well.
He is so there you go. All this money he's spending on these comic books, he could come into your store and buy a whole lot of stuff. So the key thing is that you are right. Yeah, a later version that looks better is going to sell for more. So there you go. Very, very cool. Something you said, Carol. Carol got it. No, sorry. Dicko definitely had it. He was only $1 off, as was highlighted. So yes, very, very good. All right, good stuff. Let's move on. Oh, look at this.
Now, here's a really interesting thing. It's one of those things that happens to me occasionally. I did the comics for the show, and this is an Australian printing of the Spider-Man comic, which is... this is the UK printing of the Spider-Man comic, but they're different size. They're reprints of the original, but they were in a magazine size format rather than comic book format. So they came out at different times all over the world, same stories in different formats. Now, I did this for the show, and then someone walked in with a box of comics today, and they were the Australian versions, which are oversized as well, which is really unusual to see. But I digress. This is an English reprint of the original Spider-Man comic from 1975.
And this is, I'm going to put this one in because it is irrelevant but not relevant at the same time. So Rusky Babes has come with this fun factoid, right? Nobody knows who Bruce Barnes is, right? But he's actually appearing on a TV advert on TV at the moment, advertising some kind of tire place. So, but anyway, apparently he had all these Marvel comics and his father chucked them out. So there you go. But you can physically see Bruce Barnes on TV at the moment, which is very exciting, but no one gives a shit about that. They just want to know what the price of this comic is. Andrew said $750. Natasha and the little dude is a $200. Moneybag Sullivan is a $2,500. Gavin, who's still bigging up the big bucks, is a $36,000. Violating Spider-Man Comics Weekly is the violet $1,500. 2,000 from William. Mark has got 15 reprinted dollars. Yes, there you go. Carol's at 240. Collins at 450. So there you go. UK Spider-Man Comics Weekly 137. 1975. Will its age help in its value? That is the question. So there you go, Tom. I like that one. Yeah, one cent more than Dicko. So there you go. Very, very cool. I know there's a good joke there, but I'm just not going to say it. Christy said a 120. Mick is at 165. Rusky Babes is at $30, and Thomas is at 3,500. Very, very good. All right, so Spider-Man Comics Weekly, absolutely fantastic. What do you reckon it went for? 1975. Surely it went like all the others went for an absolute massive amount of dollars. In this case, it went for a whopping $13.
So it's interesting. You can get a comic that's been reprinted in a different country at almost the same time as the original, and they never go for anything close to the original version of that comic. To answer Russell's question, there were some Newton comics and there were some Planet reprints as well that came in today. So yeah, if you ever see these, paradoxically though, sometimes you see like Avengers issue 1, the Australian print, and it'll go for a whole heap because people don't realize that it's not generally, prized as much as the original American version. So I guess there is some people that collect them, but generally you can pick them up a lot cheaper than the originals.
Very good. And for our last item, what now? Everybody's seen expensive ones. I've seen cheap ones. What's the deal with this? What is going to happen?
So I guess a lot of people would know Todd McFarlane. He was a comic book illustrator who invented Spawn and some other major comic licenses. Spawn is probably his biggest, and he did comics until he got into toy production. But for a while, he did Spider-Man, and he revitalized the comic book. And this is the first issue that he did as an illustrator of Spider-Man, where he took over the line. So this is Spider-Man. It's a silver version, silver edition from Todd McFarlane. It's one of the most popular comic books ever.
Love it. So Gavin is still sticking with the 36,000. I think he's been done it for the rest of most of the night. Andrew said $100. So there we go. There's a bit of a contrast. 36,000 to $100. What does everybody think? Spider-Man #1. Numero uno. Christy, 5 cents. Oh, where's the optimism? Unbelievable. Greg King has said, yep, chuck it in the garage sale at $2. Where's probably, all the money that Gavin spent on this, the 30,000, you guys are killing him here. Collins at 150, Carroll's at 300, Thomas is at 2,700, Mick is at 220. What do you reckon, eh? Spider-Man #1. Mark is at 49. Rusky Babes is at $10. Natasha and the little dude is at $40. There we go. 1990. It is way, way newer than the stuff we saw earlier. William said 2000. It's a lot newer than what the stuff we saw earlier. Silver edition, Todd McFarlane. What could possibly go wrong? Dicko has decided to slip in a $750. Violating Todd McFarlane and Spider-Man is the Vile at $350. And William said 2,000 in case I missed him earlier. So there you go. Very, very cool. All right. So what do you reckon, kids? Okay, Spider-Man #1, Marvel Comics, Todd McFarlane, Silver Edition. In Aaron's own words, one of the most rarest and the most expensive comics you could ever possibly buy in the universe. It went for a whopping, hold your hats, kids, $20.
Well, the interesting thing, you changed my words. I said one of the most popular comics ever written, which means there is an absolute ton of them floating about out there, and they got reprinted over and over and over. So it is one of the most popular comics, and, as soon as we get one in, it will sell, but there are a lot of them out there. I actually have a copy of that signed by the man himself.
Well done, Rusky Babes. You got to cough up an extra $10, dude. But there you go. How about that? Yes, it is a very, very good point. The more something is printed, the less it becomes worth. So you've got to make sure you keep that in mind, kiddies, when you're buying stuff.
You and I were talking about, I don't know if it was on the show or in the store, about all the millions of people that put the death of Superman away because it would pay for their children's college, except so many millions of copies were put away. It's not worth what it came when it came out.
It sounds like Phantom Menace collectibles. Now, Thomas said, oh, my God, wow. Well, I'll tell you what is, oh, my God, wow, is what I'm about to show you right now. Because guess what, kids? It is commercial time. We're going to advertise something for you. Don't leave the screens. Don't go to the debate. Forget the Lego Masters. This is going to be the coolest thing in the tiny universe. What is it? We're going to be watching a bit of Docky.
So, yes, for all the Doctor Who fans out there, and I know there's a few of them that watch, I have twisted Dag's arm. He really wasn't interested in doing this, but we are going to do a live review on Saturday, The Legend of the Sea Devils, the episode that's just been on. So if you haven't watched it, screen it. It's on iView on the ABC, or it's probably be on a couple of different repeats this week. And we'll be here to hear Dad's and my view on The Legend of the Sea Devils.
What can I say? It was 30 minutes of my life I'm never getting back.
Yay. And that was his whole review right there.
Moneybags, time to switch on. Oh, yeah, well, there's going to be a lot of comments about this. Marcus said, there's my Saturday night. Unbelievable. So there you go. So, yes, we're going to do a live, what do you want to call it? A live broadcast while we review Legend of the Sea Devils. Now, I didn't realize it, but it was the first full Doctor Who story I've watched since 1979. Oh, God damn it. Tom,
Oh. And what an amazing episode to get back on board with then.
remember, everybody out there, I watched it because Aaron said, oh, the trailer looks awesome. We've got to check this out. And it's like, fine, all right. And yes. Oh, dear. All right, very good. Yes, anyway, so yes, Saturday night, be sure to check it out at 8 o'clock. Funnily enough, I've actually got visitors coming over on 8 o'clock. Or during on Saturday, and Natasha, the little dude, will know all about that. They're going to have to sit in another room and just be quiet while I spend hours upon hours broadcasting my thoughts and in-depth analysis of such a wonderful show.
Could be a short episode.
Dear, it'd be good fun. So there you go. All right, good stuff. Yes, the violin. You get paid $1,000 from him. All right, what can I say? I've taken one for the team. All right, so yes, very good.
There we go.
All in the name of entertainment. So you go. Speaking of entertainment, it's time to get on to the actual topic of this tonight's discussion. And this is a bit of an interesting one. So what are we talking about tonight there, Mr. Aaron?
Well, we're taking a breather from our look at the Phantom Menace because 2 weeks of the Phantom Menace was enough for both of us. We'll give it a break and we'll come back to look at the toys at another point. But kind of following on from our comic discussion, we're looking at the foundations of the MCU. So for people who know the comics, you'll be interested in seeing which ones they use to build the MCU movies. And for those that don't know the comics, you'll be able to probably recognize some of the storylines and the comics from the movies that you've seen that have been so popular over the last decade and a half now, I guess.
Yeah, because it's very interesting. One of the things that we've sort of highlighted before is that when comics transferred into film or live action, historically, a lot of the comic stories, which a lot of people have loved, have just been abandoned for brand new stories. And I guess now I don't really know this. I'm just taking a bit of a stab at this, but at least with the Marvel stuff, it sounds like they've cherry picked stories that pre-existed and were very, very successful and very popular. And I do know people who are hardcore comic book devotees who've said, well, you got these superhero movies, not Marvel, but some other ones. They had these awesome stories. Why don't they just make them? They're already pre-written. All you got to do is just film the damn things. And instead of going off on complete different tangents. And seems like Marvel have sort of learned from that and go, no, we will actually take the source material from the books where they came from originally. Anyway, look where we are today.
And what I was impressed when doing this, I love the Marvel movies. I grew up, I was always a DC fan. I loved Christopher Reeve's Superman and I loved Michael Keaton Batman. And I would always say, if someone said Marvel or DC, I would say DC. But because Marvel have been so consistent over the last, 15 years and DC have dropped the ball a couple of times, now if someone asked me, I'd probably go Marvel.
Yeah, it's very interesting because, and one of the things that we discussed on another show is that prior to 2012, was it 2008, which when Iron Man came out, most of the characters that have now become household names, no one really knew them at all. Nobody really gave a shit about them. And for them, superheroes always were Batman, Superman, and whatever else. And the world's changed completely on its head now. And well done to them as well for doing such a great job with it. So, and they're still doing it. They're still producing stuff. So, it's working really well.
When I was growing up, it was the Justice League all the way, and now it's the Avengers, the biggest team up kind of success story. But anyway, the other thing we will be doing is looking at the cost. If you had decided you wanted to buy all the comics that the movies were based on, the cost it would take you to get them. And before we start looking at it, there's six movies in phase one, and we're looking at phase one tonight. There's Iron Man, Iron Man 2, there's Captain America, there's the Hulk, there's Thor, and there's, of course, the first Avengers. So just a quick, if you're at your computers, just quickly, if you were collecting all the comics for one movie, which one do you think would cost you the most? So just quickly put like Avengers or Iron Man 2 or Captain America or Thor. And if there's one person who who, if they don't double up and there's one person, I might give a prize away at the end if someone can get it. But so quickly,
All right, hang on.
franchise
While you're doing that, so Rusky Babes has said the type of storytelling between a comic, a novel, a movie, and a TV series can be very different. That's exactly right. But you can still use it as a basis, right? And I guess the whole thing with a lot of the Superman and Batman stuff is that they didn't really refer back to the source material very much when it came to other movies. Like Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, all that. I think they sort of just went on their own tangents, even though they had really, really good stories they could have tapped into. So I think that's sort of where we're coming from. So yeah.
So there's a few people putting up. Spider-Man isn't one of the ones we're looking at tonight.
No.
And Captain America, Iron Man. So anyway, we'll kick off by looking at what launched the MCU.
All right, just before you go there, and Christy is correct. When they did X-Men way back in the early 2000s, that was very, very successful. They mean it's not a part of the MCU, but yes, that was definitely a step in the right direction. Maybe it was a good test case to say, let's do a series of movies based on a comic that no one really gives a shit about. I mean, in the outside world. And it was a massive hit. So you never know, testing the waters. Anyway, what am I doing?
Yoda.
What?
We're doing the first slide. So the first movie for the setup of Phase 1 for the MCU was, of course, Iron Man. Now, when Iron Man was being made, it was presumed it was going to be successful, but no one quite understood what a big movie it was going to be. You've had superhero movies be huge before, and you've always been your Supermans and your Batmans. And Iron Man was more of an unknown quantity at the time because, as Dag said, before this movie came out, most people wouldn't have even known who Iron Man was. So not only did they have to launch a franchise with a lesser-known character, but it had to be a quality movie that would tune into the audience and would be accessible to everyone, not just sort of comic book nerds. You've got to remember, just a couple of years before this, we had Ang Lee's Incredible Hulk, which everyone thought was going to be absolutely massive. And it was more massive because people wanted to see a good Hulk movie, not because the movie was a particularly amazing movie. So comic book movies had been sort of on a downward trend. DC had said they couldn't film Justice League because it was too expensive and there was no money in comic book movies anymore. So Marvel definitely schooled them on that. Did you enjoy Iron Man?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was an absolute winner right across the board. And I think, sorry, I'm just going to go back. I think one of the things that sort of worked as far as the story is that I like the fact that it was very, very serious at the very, very start when he's stuck in the cave with the other guy. And at the end, when he actually announces that he is Iron Man, and instead of doing the old, no, it's the guy over there, steer the identity away to somebody else. That was a twist I don't think a lot of people saw coming. No. And as, of course, these days, Tony Stark is now a household name next to Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent. So, it was. I think because nobody had any expectations at all, it had to be a hit, and then it was off to the races after that. So, very, very
I enjoyed it as well. Now, Iron Man is one of the classic Marvel heroes. Iron Man started in Tales of Suspense, and what Marvel used to do, they wouldn't launch a superhero in their own line straight away. They had an anthology series of comics. So there's Journey into Mystery, Tales of Suspense, and Strange Tales and things like that. And what they would do, someone would come up with an interesting character like Doctor Strange, and they'd put him in Strange Tales. And then if the character took off, he'd get his own comic. And it was the same which what happened with Iron Man. So Iron Man was introduced in Tales of Suspense, and it's pretty interesting that the story they used of Iron Man was pretty much what they used in his original appearance, where he's in a cave, he makes the Iron Man suit, out of bits and pieces. He comes out and he announces himself as Iron Man. Now, of course, during the Cold War and during the time, the enemies who they had were different, and they took the bones of the story from other different comics as well. So that is Tales of Suspense on the top left is the first appearance of Iron Man. So it goes for quite a bit of money. Now the other ones you've got down there underneath it, I've put in because it's the first appearance of his classic gold and red suit. So much like the movie, he started off in a silver suit that he put together, went to a gold suit, and then it eventually became the gold and red suit that is so iconic now. So the first appearance of the gold suit, you'll be looking at about 430 Australian. And next to that, you've got the first appearance of Happy Hogan and Pepper Potts, which again are the two supporting characters for Iron Man. And when you collect comics, you will see first appearance of different iconic characters are the issues that you want to get, because they're the ones that appreciate in value. So those two issues I actually have. I don't have the first appearance of Spider-Man though, and you can see if you were going to try and get one of those, you're probably looking at about $20,000 Australian for that comic if you want to get like a run of Iron Man comics, which is pretty astronomical for a 12-cent comic, isn't it?
Yes. First Iron Man comic was set in Vietnam. The villain was a bright yellow. Oh, well, there you go. So,
yeah,
and Chrissy just made a mention that she had an X-Men and Wolverine comic collection that was burnt and destroyed in Ash Wednesday bushfires, which is very unfortunate. So,
it's really, really terrible to hear. I always hate to hear that. And we've got a couple of other key issues that introduced other elements from the Iron Man movie. You've got the first appearance of Jebediah Stane, who was the in the Ironmonger, and then underneath that you've got the Ironmonger suit itself, which were two separate sort of comics in the stories as they went through. Mostly they were in the Iron Man series, but some of the stuff was introduced from other things. And you can see there some of the key issues don't go for that much. You could pick one up for $30 or $40, and the other one is still in the hundreds. If you wanted to collect, which I would view all the key elements that made up the first Iron Man movie, you would probably be roughly shelling out about $35,000 Australian, which is a lot of money to spend on comics, but it kind of only goes up from here.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, isn't it? So, yeah, right. You get all the comics that are the basis of the stories, but of course the films didn't come out until many years afterwards. So, yeah, it'd be more of a curiosity than anything else, I think, from many people's perspective. So, yeah.
Well, what Russell was saying is true. They had, a lot of the stories back then were all about the yellow peril, sort of the Asian menace or the red menace as well, and that's kind of totally changed now. But it still was what was grabbing the reader's imagination at the time. So there's sort of the set of comics if you wanted to look at the ones that were the bones of the first Iron Man movie. So that was the first steps of phase one in the Marvel universe, and it knocked the ball out of the park, as they say. It was a very successful movie, and that guaranteed that the other Marvel movies were going to be made. The second movie was already being planned, and sometimes people forget about this as being one of the Marvel movies, but it's the Incredible Hulk, and it's the Edward Norton version of the Hulk. When it originally came out, I wasn't keen on it. I kind of was a bit underwhelmed. Some of the story elements were probably too similar to the Ang Lee version that had been pretty recent. So it didn't stand out as an amazing movie for me. Since it came out, I'll rewatch it, and I kind of think it's better than my original views. Did you ever get into the Hulk or see this at the cinema when it came out, mate?
No, I didn't see any of them. The character just didn't appeal to me. Rusky Babes has said, and I do agree with him, that there are good quality hardcover or soft cover reprints, as we saw in the eBay section. Yeah. And if you're just more curious to see about the stories rather than the collectability side, yeah, absolutely, that could be the way to go. I don't have to reprint all of them, but it certainly costs you a lot less than trying to buy the original. So, yeah, keep that in mind, everybody. So, yeah.
Absolutely. The trade paperbacks or the hardcovers, you can get collections. Sometimes, and we'll see this as we look through the other movies, some of the movies are based on comic books from totally different eras. So you might have the characters from the 40s and 50s and the storyline from the 2000s. Yeah, we'll be looking at that a bit later.
So you're saying in this film, Edward Norton is the Hulk. So, and then later on, he gets replaced by the other guy, I forgot his name, in the MCU proper. Is that right? Yeah.
So he was chosen as the Hulk, and he was going to be the Hulk. If you look into the production of this, it wasn't an easy production. He apparently cared about the character so much that he wanted to rewrite a lot of his scenes and his lines to how he saw the Hulk. And unfortunately, when you've got a studio like Marvel, sometimes they hire an actor to toe the line and not bring their own creative slant to it. And probably as well, when you are making a series of movies that all have to fit together, it probably isn't easy for an actor to start rewriting things because he might not know how it connects to other movies. So he was replaced. There was a bit of animosity, and he doesn't talk about it very much. I thought he was fine as the Hulk and as Bruce Banner. I mean, as Bruce Banner, anyone in CG can probably be the Hulk, and you're not going to notice the replacement too much. His enemy in this was the Abomination, which was another guy who in the comics tried to make himself have the kind of Hulk powers. And you introduced Betty, his girlfriend, and General Ross, Betty's father. And the interesting thing is this movie kind of faded away into the background. You have the Hulk character coming back without any of the elements, but eventually Jeff Bridges as General Ross has come back. So there are still those strings that connect all the different Marvel movies that they build on top of as they go through.
Very good.
So here are some of the key elements from the Hulk. Now, the Hulk issue 1 in the middle there is the very first Hulk comic, and of course that's quite an expensive issue. Interestingly, Hulk wasn't an instant success. It ran for about 6 issues and then was cancelled, and then the Hulk was brought back in other storylines, but he didn't get his own comic again till much later. When the Hulk originally came out, he was grey, and he was grey for that issue because of a printing error. He was always meant to be green, and when it went to the printers, it didn't eventuate that he was green. So the first appearance of the Hulk, he's grey, but he was always meant to be green. And then some of the other comics that you'd have to get there if you want to collect all the Hulk issues are the creation and first appearance of the Abomination. Doc Samson, who was actually in the Hulk movie, and I didn't even realize it till I was researching this episode. And there was a couple of different characters. There was the leader as well who is in it. And they did set up a whole lot of continuing characters in this movie that they haven't come back and got back to, maybe because it wasn't as big a success as some of the other movies. Hulk Grey on the top right there is a much more modern retelling of the Hulk, but that's probably the closest comic to what the Hulk was based on, to the point where some of the panels in the comic were used almost exactly in the movie. Submariner doesn't get much of a look because someone bought the rights to Submariner way back in the 60s, and they can't get them back. They've been negotiating them for a long time.
Just to go back to an earlier comment about the reissues, Gavin asked if they're available digitally online. I would assume, I don't know,
they are.
Maybe some,
That's the cheapest way to get them. Pretty much Marvel and DC have both scanned every single comic they ever made, and they have a massive online library, and you can buy them digitally, and you can buy them to rent, or you can buy them to keep. So it costs different prices if you just want to read them once, or if you want to digitally have them forever. And a lot of Marvel comics, if you subscribe, if you actually buy the physical copy, you get to own the online copy for free as well. They include it with the actual copy.
Very good. So Gavin said the Grey Hulk looks like Frankenstein's monster, and Muskie Babe said that was quite deliberate, which makes a lot of sense. So very groovy.
So again, you've got some pretty high prices. It was in Hulk 181 or Hulk 180 if you include just the single frame. But again, with this, you've got some pretty amazing prices. You've got the original Hulk in different conditions. Of course, in different conditions, it'll go for a different price. And you've got their graded ones that are going for $50,000 and change, or you've got like ungraded ones that you can get for a much more reasonable, well, they're in pounds, aren't they? So $100,000 and $50,000 for an ungraded one. So you're looking at a lot to unleash the Hulk. Luckily, if you just want the Abomination, you're only looking at a couple of $100. And if you want the series of figures, which is a series of books, which is Grey Hulk, which the movie was more closely based on, you can get all 6 issues for about $150 $40 Australian. So much more reasonable to buy the more modern comics.
Very good. And as I say, between your grey ones and your grey ones, there's nothing that a can of spray paint won't fix.
Yes. So if you wanted to get sort of the first appearance of Betty and the first appearance of General Ross, and you wanted the original Hulk and all of these different key issues, you're probably looking at about $100,000 for a nice collection of, the dozen comics that you're after for that. So Hulk goes for substantially more than Iron Man.
Sorry, I put this up too early. Moneybags asked about the Grey Hulk. Looks like Grundy from DC. Who came out first? Any ideas?
He does. I think Grundy actually came out before the Hulk, but you'd have to check on that. The thing with Marvel and DC, they often do that thing with movies. You get an Armageddon, and at the same time, Deep Impact comes out. You will get Swamp Thing, and it comes out almost exactly the same as Man Thing, where it is one of those competitive things that they do, obviously, to try and compete with each other.
Yeah, it's not like having ER and Chicago Hope both set in hospitals in the same city at the same time. Go figure that. Not enough like cities in America to have different hospitals in, but yes, very, very cool.
Yeah.
So yes, if you like your Hulk, your big green things running around, that's the history of that. And then of course we move on to the sequel. Oh no, we're on to the Avengers.
No, this is the Iron Man 2. That was the third movie from Phase 1, and it's interesting because in my head I thought Captain America and Thor came out before Iron Man 2, but they didn't. Iron Man 2 was the third Phase 1 project to come out based on Iron Man, and it was instantly successful because obviously everyone loved Iron Man 1. It didn't gross as much, but it's very, very seldom that sequels to popular movies gross as much as the original. Even Empire Strikes Back didn't gross as much as Star Wars.
Yep.
So Iron Man 2 introduced more characters into the pantheon of Marvel. For the movie, you have Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow, was introduced in this movie. You also had Whiplash, which was more of a second-tier villain, and also you've got Justin Hammer, who is another villain that was from the Marvel comics, but not a lot of people would instantly know him. But they were all people and villains that were known in the Marvel universe and introduced quite well into the movies as they went along. I do think with Marvel and DC kind of win on having the more recognized villains. Once you get through a couple of the Marvel villains, it's into unknown territory for me, where with the DC villains, they just bring out more and more that you kind of know from Batman and Superman and things. You didn't see this one either, Dags?
Oh, yeah, I did. I only just saw it the once. That was a long time ago. You're talking about the DC villains. Well, they've appeared in media a lot more than Marvel villains have. So the Joker is, and for example, and some of the other baddies from Batman, they've been in multiple movies and TV series throughout the generations. Whereas with the Marvel ones, not so much at all. So you are right. More people are probably more roughly familiar with the superheroes, even though they haven't seen them very often, but with their bad guys, you can almost invent anybody. People go, but that's brand new. So even if they're not. So, that I think is an interesting sort of way of looking at it.
It is extra rewarding to Marvel fans who see things on the screen that perhaps they never thought would ever appear. And you get like, wow, Whiplash is going to be the new Iron Man movie, where to 90% of people, they wouldn't know who it was. So I guess that rewards fans.
But the advantage is if you're producing a superhero movie with a superhero that really hasn't been done before, you can set the standard as to how you want it to be. Like Iron Man was a perfect example, and all the rest of it. It's never appeared in media before effectively that's been done that well. With the bad guys, it's the same thing. You can introduce these bad guys that no one's ever seen before, so there's no expectations. So if you do another Batman movie and you introduce a Joker or a Penguin or a Catwoman, they're all going to be compared against previous iterations, where if you're doing it for the very first time, you can do anything. And you can do no wrong effectively, and that's a big advantage to work with. So for that reason, you're breaking new ground every single time, and the only thing you're competing against is your own products that you've produced earlier. So that's a good problem to have. So very groovy.
It really is. So of course, because they've already set up the Iron Man universe, they don't have to go through that again. So you've got the different characters that were brought into this, and of course, Iron Man 2 introduced the War Machine, Whiplash, which he looks totally different in the comics to what he appears as in the movie. So basically that's why I've got the Crimson Dynamo there as well, because Whiplash was a cross between Whiplash and the Crimson Dynamo. And then you've got the setup of the Hammer drones and Justin Hammer himself. So even though this was using elements from different comics, probably the most expensive comic there is going to be the first appearance of Black Widow. because they're pretty much all second-tier villains that they've used in the movie. But Black Widow has gone on, of course, to become one of the most popular and strongest female superheroes that's been in the cinema, eventually getting her own movie. So the first appearance of Justin Hammer, $140, and then you've got some quite cheap ones there if you're looking for first appearances, $25 and $80 US for War Machine, which I thought would go for a lot more. Black Widow first appearance will set you back. You're going to be looking at about 4,500 Australian for sort of an average copy of that. Crimson Dynamo, $660, and Whiplash is only $45, which I thought for such a main villain, that's pretty good price for a key issue. So compared to the original, you don't have to put your hands quite as deep in your pockets to get all the comics for this one, but you're looking still at about 6,000 Australian to get all the comics that sort of were the inspiration for this movie.
Bit of a change from the Hulk version, isn't it, in terms of prices? So yeah,
it really is.
Now, this one threw me. When they said they were going to announce this particular movie, I thought, why would you even bother? Right? It's really left field. But as it turned out, it turned out to be unbelievably successful. And I was actually very, very surprised. So happy to be proven wrong. What can I say?
I have got to say the success of the movie Thor, I think, is a lot down to Chris Hemsworth being absolutely perfectly cast as Thor, and him having such a good sort of sense of humor about the character. Kenneth Branagh directed the original Thor, and they really went for a cross between Marvel and Shakespeare. I really thought they were trying, especially when they're on Asgard and you've got the family tragedy and how things play out. The Thor movie was, again, incredibly successful. A lot of people had laughed at Thor being made, the god of lightning,
Thunder.
Sorry?
Thunder.
God of Thunder, being in a movie and using the hammer and stuff, but they treated the source material with respect, and it was a very well-received movie. As I said earlier, Thor 1 and Thor 2 are very similar in tone, and then Thor 3 Ragnarok goes a totally different direction. Both were incredibly successful, though. So some of the characters you can see here that were introduced for the first time were Jane Foster, Natalie Portman, and you have Odin. You've got the Warriors 3 and the Sith, and of course Hawkeye and Loki that are fan favorites as well.
I would argue that if Iron Man and Hulk had never happened and Thor was the first one to come out, that's a big ask to try and make that successful. And I think having the others before it kind of helped, and it set a standard, because you must think that when they first designed it, they're first looking at it, I'm sure part of them would have been thinking, this is skating on thin ice. This could come out as being really stupid. And had it been made 20 years ago or even 15 years ago, in perspective when it came out, it probably would have been terrible. So it was at the right place at the right time with the right production team who already had set these wheels in motion, saying, well, people are going to watch it anyway because it's now part of this new established franchise. Whereas I think if that didn't exist, it may have struggled, even if it had been a good movie. So they're kind of lucky. It's a bit of a get out of jail free card in the end, but it worked out very well for them.
Well, I think it was planned very well, and I think you're absolutely right, because this was the fourth movie. This is the most comic book movie, where the other ones you could go and see, and you could believe in the realms of technology that there could be an Iron Man, and you could believe with the mutants of radiation you might get a Hulk. But when you get to this, you're asked to, there's gods, and there's Asgard, and there's multi-dimensions, and there's rainbow bridges, and then they have like machines like the Destroyer and things like that. So it ups the comic book likeness of the movie. And I think if you went into that cold, it'd be exactly what you said, a lot harder to accept if you haven't been eased into it through 3 other movies that bring you to this point. That's why I think the MCU has done so well, because they've obviously planned it to be like stepping stones to get everyone into the universe.
And a little bit of luck as well, plus very good timing. And they took advantage of the fact that their main competitor was kind of sucking the big one at the time. So there you go.
So Thor originally came from Journey into Mystery, and these are some expensive comics you're looking at right here, because you introduce Thor, and within a couple of issues, you've also introduced Loki, Jane Foster, and a lot of the other elements from the Thor movies. And then Thor introduced Hawkeye, and Hawkeye came from the Iron Man series, and the first issue with Hawkeye in is quite an expensive comic too. And then you have some of the other storylines that were from the early Journey into Mystery as well, and they're all expensive comics. And so as we've gone through this series, I guess Iron Man 2 wasn't as expensive because we'd already had all the key issues in issue 1, but this is another jump up with, even before the movies were out and making these more popular than they are, these were very expensive comics and very hard to get back in the day before the movies anyway, with a lot of popular characters and a lot of key things introduced.
This is a classic one from me. So Gavin has asked if there are any superheroes and villains yet to hit the big screen, and Chrissy said there are. It's a very long list, and it is. There's a lot that haven't made it to the silver screen, probably for very good reasons. But by the same token, there could be untapped resources there waiting to make their appearance. So you never know.
Yeah. So here are some of the big hitters. Interestingly, I usually try to use Australian prices because we're in Melbourne, we're in Australia, so everyone understands that these comics are not even for sale in Australia. They are impossible to find locally. Same with the Hulk ones and some of those other ones. That's why the prices are different regions. But you're looking at about $50,000 Australian for the first appearance of Thor in good condition. For Loki, you pay a little bit less, but you're still looking at many thousands of dollars. For Hawkeye, you're looking at about $3,000. And Hawkeye, I mean, he's an interesting character, but he's probably not the same level as some of the other superheroes. He's just a guy that's really good with a bow, really. But he's still got a popular following. And then you've got like key issues with the Hammer and with other elements, and they all go for thousands of dollars. So first appearance of Jane Foster, you're looking at about $3,500 for that one. And then even ones that don't have key in them, but take story elements for Thor, they're going for hundreds of dollars as well. So if you're collecting that run or those particular comics, you need particularly deep pockets.
I like how you said that Hawkeye wasn't really like one of the real top echelons of the Avengers, and that's of course covered off in the Hawkeye TV series. He's sort of like, he's sort of an additional dude in the group. Yeah.
I do think that's one of the things that I think really appeals about the Avengers, where you have gods and millionaires, and you've just got good warriors, and you've got people with superpowers and people who have science and technology, and it's all balanced out. And that's the good thing about a team up, because as an audience, everyone can have someone's favorite they can choose. If you don't like one, you've got another one. If you don't like Robert Downey Jr., you've got Point Break. So
yeah, and it's also how they interact with each other as well. Someone's better friend with someone else, and someone else is more linked to someone else. So even though they're all a team, they've all got their interpersonal relationships as well, which is particularly groovy. But good stuff.
Yeah. So some of the other issues, the first appearance of the Destroyer, which was sort of the big robot bad guy at the end of Thor, you're looking at about 400 Australian. First Nick Fury from Strange Tales, only $60. I thought that was quite cheap. You've got Journey into Mystery that had some of the elements from Thor and introduced S.H.I.E.L.D., $300. Journey into Mystery, why have I put that one? It was one of the story elements that was used in the Thor movie, and that one's $1,500 graded. And then the first appearance of Loki, who is, of course, a fan favorite, one of those villains, and then an anti-villain that everybody really hooked onto and loved. You're looking $7,100 US for a 6.5 average one, so $10,000 for the first appearance of Loki, and you're looking at about $70,000 Australian to assemble a nice Thor collection that represents a good range from comics that made the movie. So another expensive bunch of comics there.
Rusky Bose has written War and Peace. It'll cover up half the screen to show this, but feel free to read that at your leisure, kids. And yes, and we've just covered ourselves. So how good is this? So yes. But yes, there's a whole lot to do with the comics code and how they change things and censorship and all the rest of it. It's a lot. It's a whole other discussion. Probably need another show to do that. But we're a collectible show, and we're going to talk about collectibles. So
Yeah.
now this movie did come out, and I've got to say, in terms of like ramping up the quality of the MCU universe, which had chugged away quite nicely to this point, comes out and is like, oh my god, this is a super duper hit. And of course, it's got old Captain America and. Could do no wrong, really. It's fantastic.
Interestingly, this one probably impressed me the most because I expected the least from it. Captain America was never one of my favorite comic book heroes, and also I was never interested in reading about a flag-waving American superhero, so I didn't really know much about him. Seeing the movie, then I suddenly got why he was Captain America, because he was, of course, a mascot for the army. I thought he was a great character, really, from going from a good person who has no power to someone who has a lot of power but stays true to himself. And I also thought that the Red Skull was an absolutely amazing villain, done really well in this as well. Not too over the top, but still very comic booky. And then they introduced a whole lot of elements from different comics. So you had Sergeant Fury's Howling Commandos, and you've got Agent Carter. And I do think it is one of the best drawing together and origin stories that they've done in the MCU.
What I really appreciated was the fact that he doesn't start off as a superhero at all. And he's, as you said, it's all about doing for the war bonds. And he's getting dressed up to do the war bonds thing, and he's getting picked on by everybody, all the soldiers and all the rest of it. And that's something I did not expect at all. Because when you think of Captain America, you think straight away he just dons the outfit. Everybody just loves him. He's the greatest thing in the entire universe. And the fact that he had to sort of work his way through it and virtually earn his stripes, and effectively, I really dialed into that. And I thought that is awesome. And it actually justifies how the character is created, where he appears, what he does, and it just supports the entire story. And for that reason, I thought, yeah, that just worked on a lot of levels. And I think the audience sort of dialed into it as well. Unlike, say, Thor, who's already the god of thunder, and Hulk, who's already a Hulk, and all this sort of shit. You know, Captain America starts as nothing, as you said, just a small weedy dude, and then even when he's changed into the superhero, he's still got to earn his place in the world. And yeah, for that reason, it was absolutely spectacular. So yeah, good stuff.
Totally, 100% agree with you. I think it's one of those things where you can see yourself in the hero, because everyone has been put down and feels small at some point in their life, and that he goes through that transformation and stays true to himself is a great story arc. Captain America is interesting. Russell would probably know all about the history here. Captain America is the oldest character out of all the ones we've been discussing, unless you talk about Thor in history. But he originally came out in 1941 in Captain America comics. And so his comics earlier issues are a lot harder to find and go for a lot more than anything we've seen before. Captain America issue 1 there introduces Captain America, and the origin story is very similar. Captain America issue 2 is very interesting because it goes for a lot of money, because it's the first appearance of his round shield. And much like the movie, when he's introduced in issue 1, he has like the shield style shield, and then he goes to the shield, and they kept that in the movie as well, which I thought was a great sort of nod to the original evolution of Captain America. Issue 3 had I think it was the first appearance of the Red Skull, but it's a different Red Skull. So the true first appearance of Red Skull is actually a couple of issues later. And then we've got a whole lot of other comics that were drawn into Captain America. So probably the origin of Captain America, which is a more modern comic, is probably the bones that they took for the story of the actual movie. And then you can see down the bottom there's Captain America White, 6 issues. And that's a very modern comic as well, which was very close to what they did in the movie with the rest of the story. Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos was a war comic. And it was I thought very clever that they took characters from this and they introduced them into the, I guess the prisoners of war were from the Howling Commandos. So they introduced existing characters from the Marvel universe in an organic way where you didn't have to know who they were, but Marvel fans would know. Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and then you've also got the first appearance of Peggy Carter, and they all go for quite a bit of money. And also you've got another comic there where they based some of the storylines on, which was in Captain America and the Falcon. So there's a wide range of comics there. Now, what this would cost to assemble is going to blow your mind. Captain America sold last week, I think it was, for a new record. The highest grade of issue 1, a 9.4, went for 3.12 million US in auction about 2 weeks ago, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And I was reading the history of this, and the same comic sold about 3 years ago for $1 million. So a $1 million investment went up to $3.2 million in about 2 years. And that really just show you the popularity of the comic book media and these movies at the moment. I think that is absolutely stunning. And it really goes to show you the origin of Captain America goes for about $130, where the original 1940s comic is costing millions. So I would dare say a comic that's out of the range of everyone apart from Moneybags.
Yeah, exactly right. He can buy that next week. Gavin said, at that price, would you read it? No, you would not. You're buying it as an investment, not buying it to read it. You actually just get a copy of it from somewhere else, or a reprint or whatever else. Yes, and which is particularly groovy. How about that, eh? Unbelievable. So
it is. So some of the other comics here from the series, Captain America issue 2 only goes for 26,000, so about 40,000 Australian. And then you've got Strange Tales, first appearance of Nick Fury, nearly 600 Australian. Down the bottom there, you've got like the different grades. And this is interesting because what we were talking about earlier with the Spider-Man comics, a fine, an FN of Captain America issue 3 goes for 13,000 US, a 6 out of 10. An 8 out of 10 goes for about 28,000 US. And then a 9.4 out of 10, 1,300 US. So condition is really everything when it comes to comics. All of those are still expensive comics, but it really does show you the difference between a near mint comic and a fine comic. First appearance of Peggy Carter, I thought was actually quite reasonable, where you can still get one for under $100. And then Captain America, first appearance of Armin Zola, who was of course the German scientist that eventually wound up inside the computer, is $150. Now I've done two different tallies for this. If you really wanted all of the comics there with issue 1, you're looking at $5 million for one with a mint issue 1. If you're happy to live without that issue 1, it's about $65,000. But far and away, this is the most expensive collection of comics from phase 1 to try and assemble.
Very good. I think it's also interesting too that because the thing is set in the 1940s during wartime, I mean, a lot of young people would have been watching it thinking, I can't relate to World War II. It was a different time. So it was a bit of a gamble that they did that. And it obviously worked because people could say, I can kind of remember Vietnam, but World War II is just too far gone. But anyway, that didn't matter. It worked very, very well. And Gavin said about, Gavin said, will we see a Nick Fury movie? I wouldn't think so, but anything's possible.
No.
So.
It'll be interesting if they did, and if it was the same version of Nick Fury or a different one. If you pull up the Captain America covers again for a second, because it was World War II, Captain America would actually feature Hitler in quite regularly. And on a couple of the covers, you can see he's being punched out by. You can see Captain America is punching Hitler, and in a couple of the covers, because it was all to do with wartime, pro America and anti-Nazism. Now, I sold some Captain America comics a couple of years ago to Europe, and they got sent back to me because customs had opened them and they were classed as Nazi paraphernalia because they had Hitler and swastikas on the cover. Even though it was an anti-fascist, anti-comic, they were still banned and sent back to me.
Yeah, I was referring to the movie itself, the fact that it was set in the 40s, not in current day. So you watched all these movies up to that point, which were all set in current day. Then suddenly you're journeying back 70-something years back. And I can imagine some of the audience going, no, I can't relate to where we are. But it still worked. And once again, if that was the first movie out of the whole series, would it have worked? Hard to say. But anyway, that doesn't really matter now. it has done quite well. So, and as for a Nick Fury thing, well, I mean, they'd have to probably de-age Samuel L. But yeah, weirder things have happened, and someone we might, if they wouldn't do it as a film, they might do it as a TV series. They're doing a big thing with the TV
Possibly.
series at the moment for the lesser known characters, and it would make sense if they're going to do a Nick Fury thing, 6 episodes of him. You never know. It'd be quite successful, actually. I think a lot of people would be very intrigued as to see how it would go.
Yeah.
Very good. So, sorry, you're going to say something?
I was just saying, including me, I'd like to see it. So
yeah, I think it'd be a big hit. All right, so you got all these superheroes. You've established the whole lot. The best you can do now is chuck them all together, and all of a sudden you make hundreds of millions of dollars without even blinking your eyes. How good is that?
Now, the Avengers is very interesting because at the time people were going, oh my goodness, this is the first time in history 5 different movies have all been brought together. And all 5 movies came together, and the 6th movie was the Avengers, and people were, oh my goodness, over the last 4 or 5 years you've been building up to this and it's never been done before. Little did we know, 10 years after this, there'd be multiverses and drawing in other studios and characters from different series, and it's not confusing for the audience, and they have deftly managed to get us to that point. This was a huge event movie at the time. When it came out, there was Avengers stuff absolutely everywhere. It was one of those movies like when Star Wars came back, everybody went and saw it. So the Avengers introduced Captain America into modern times. You had Nick Fury bringing together Tony Stark, and all the threads where you saw them sort of interacting and bringing the Avengers project online finally came together. And basically, some of the scenes like this were made for trailers, where you have all the Avengers standing in New York and the camera sort of circling around them. I mean, how could that not be, a massive movie, even from just seeing the trailer? Loki was back as the main bad guy, and that was fantastic because so many people love him as Loki. You have Nick Fury pulling it all together. Agent Coulson, who's been in a lot of the other Avengers movies, was part of it. The one person that was new was Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk. And so I think because the Hulk is such an iconic character, and the change was from one of the less popular Phase 1 movies, everyone thought he was fantastic as the Hulk. He is not an actor I would have looked at originally and said, oh, that's Bruce Banner. I always thought Bruce Banner was more of a scientist type, someone like a Brett Spiner or someone like that. But he works fine.
Yeah, totally agree. I couldn't think of his name earlier on. I think one of the reasons why the Avengers was so successful is because the bad guys, I don't mean Loki, but I mean like all the aliens and that, they're really hardcore. They're smashing the shit out of poor New York City. And that is like, wow, you get a lot of superhero movies where the bad guys are actually other people, right? Whether it be if it's the Batman universe, it's your Jokers and Penguins and whatever. If it's Superman, it's the super villains and all the rest of it. But now you've actually got bad guys who are extraterrestrial, who are really hardcore, really frightening, and really threatening. And you need something the equivalent of the Avengers to try and defeat them. And I think that worked in a big way, because people could say, you know what, if this happened in real life, if these aliens did come down here, we wouldn't stand a chance. You would be looking towards the superheroes to say, please save the day. And I think that was an ingenious way of looking at it. Really hardcore, nasty, pasty, ass-kicking bad guys. And that were ugly, and everybody hated them. And very, very cool. If it had been just another bad dude, it just wouldn't have cut the mustard, in my view.
The one thing that's a pity is they didn't watch The Phantom Menace and work out you shouldn't be able to take out just one control ship and they all die. That's one of the things that the bad guys always fall into that trap, don't they? But it was a fantastic movie. It was a spectacle to go and see. I like going and seeing movies where I see something and go, do you know what? I haven't seen that before. And when I saw The Avengers, it was like feeling like a little kid again, going and seeing that movie.
And it brought in that much money. It was like, that's it. We're off. We are going to town, kids, and there's going to be a lot more to come. So, and they're still coming.
The Avengers issue 1, of course, brings together the Avengers. In the Avengers, Ant-Man was in it, but he hadn't been introduced yet. Again, they go up against Loki in the first issue, so very similar to the movie. Probably the key issue of the Avengers, though, is a couple of issues later. So there's the fun fact there. No problem. Where Stan Lee, who basically reorganized the Marvel universe and made it as successful as it is, he is popular for a reason. He went back through the Marvel catalog and saw the rights to what different characters they had. And Captain America had not been in comics for decades. And he did basically the story that they used in Captain America, where he said, he's been frozen, we've woken him up, he's back in the new Marvel universe, and he's part of the Avengers. So all of that is straight from the comics. And then we have some of the other comic books which introduced, there's the one at the top there, which is only a little bit at the end, but introduced Thanos, which was going to lead into some much bigger stories in phase 2 and phase 3. Down the bottom, though, they're very much more modern series of comics from the 2000s. And that is basically a run of the Ultimates, where they put the Avengers together to fight the Chitauri that come to invade Earth through a portal from another planet. So that is very true to the movie as well. But what's fantastic as a comic book fan, what Dags was saying, Marvel have utilized really well. They haven't done, we're doing this comic or we're making up new stories. They've looked through their entire history and cherry-picked all the best parts to weave different eras together into a really amazing stories, and that has worked really well. And the Avengers, the first Avengers movie, is a classic example of how well they did it.
Yeah, and having the origin stories for all the other characters, the main ones, certainly helped. It wasn't like, because otherwise, if it had been like, here's the movie full stop, we've got to introduce everybody in one go, it just would never have worked. So it's not clever storytelling, it's strategic storytelling as well.
Yes.
Very clever. And of course, as we said earlier, the timing and the marketing has just been worked right on the money. So
well, yeah. DC tried to do Avengers with Justice League, but didn't bother doing all the origin movies before, which shows you how much better Marvel did it.
Yep, paid the price they did, DC. Yeah, absolutely.
So again, there is some expensive issues here. Avengers issue 1, you're looking at about, for a low-grade copy, $9,000, $10,000. Then you've got some of the other ones. The Ultimate set, which is the retelling, you can get the whole set for about $80, so $10 an issue. The first appearance of Captain America, you can get for, in the modern times, you can get for about 1,500 Australian. And then the first issue of Thanos, and this is what blows me away. In this issue, Thanos is really just introduced. He isn't really the main villain in it. $4,000 just because he's such an amazing character. And people are really dialed into him as a bad guy. I had not even heard of Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet and all of that before the Avengers, and now it's part of comic book history that everybody knows. Interestingly, there I've highlighted the Australian reprint of Avengers issue 1, which I was saying earlier, like the Australian stuff doesn't go for anything. This used to be a $20 comic not so long ago. We're talking like 4 or 5 years ago. Now they're going for $1,500. So even some of those reprints are commanding amazing prices. And it's the Newton comic, which Russell was talking about as well.
Yeah, speaking of Russell, it's another War and Peace thing, and that's exactly right. So there was a lot of stuff during the 1930s and the 40s regarding comics that were very, very popular, and then it all sort of died up. And I think mainly through the 50s because of the restrictions that were put on comic writers at the time. And yeah, but it all sort of came into its own back in the 60s and the 70s, and now the rest is history. But yes, it's
well, Stan Lee was very clever in that. What I was saying earlier, sort of anthology Twilight Zone comics, he would like slip a superhero in and then the sales would go up and he'd be like, oh, look, they are popular. Maybe we can do them again. So he was really the foundation of the modern Marvel era, which is why he's such a legend.
And the good thing is that Stan at least got to see a lot of it all come to fruition. I mean, it's not like like it was produced so long, like in advance that he didn't get to see any of it. So he got to see how it all came together. And yeah, it would have been, it just, I don't know, just was meant to be, I guess. And it's still going. So
interestingly, because of all of his cameos in the Marvel movies, even though he's not really an actor, he appears in movies that outgross most of the most famous actors' total grosses in movies. So when you do which actor has appeared in the most movies and grossed the most, Stan Lee is right up there.
Yeah, it'll be good for all these trivia competitions for generations to come. So there you go. Anyway, that brings us to the end of our talk, actually. So
It does. So I hope everyone has enjoyed our wander through the Marvel universe, and we'll be coming back at some point to do phase 2.
Chrissy's asked how many cameos did he was in? Oh Christ, he was like nearly 20 of them or something, wasn't he? He was up until only until he passed away. So
He was in every movie up until Spider-Man: Homecoming, maybe. I think was his last one. So a lot of movies. Yeah.
Also, did Stan make any appearances in the comics? Probably I would have done, not likely. So he could have just someone who looks like him, but doesn't mean he was named by him. So
well, I'll tell you what, we have a hot toy of Stan Lee in the shop at the moment, and that was just from a tiny scene in Thor in Guardians of the Galaxy. So he's popular enough that his cameos have got pops and action figures and toys. Yeah.
So it's interesting, isn't it? So yeah, if you are really, really keen, you want to see where all these things came from, you can dig up all the comics and look at these stories and see how they looked on paper versus how they look on film. And of course, some of them were written like decades ago. So it'd be interesting to sort of interpret that. And I can't imagine anybody like reading these things back 30, 40 years ago going, one day this would make an awesome movie, and who knew? So
I tell you what, fandom is pretty good with Marvel. They're pretty positive, but I bet you somewhere there's some dude who goes, "Oh, it was better in the comics. The comics are the best."
Yes, exactly right. Anyway, with that in mind, we're going to buzz off. It's actually right on 10 o'clock, which is particularly groovy for us. We will be back, believe it or not, not in this show, but Aaron and I will be back on Saturday night talking about Legends of the Sea Devils. Oh my God, I can hardly wait. So be sure to tune in for that. And it should be particularly groovy. So are there any final words you want to say before we buzz off for this evening, Mr. Aaron?
No, thanks for everyone joining us tonight, and hopefully you've got some good comics in your collection. And if you don't enjoy comics, I hope you found it interesting anyway.
Very good, very good. If you do have some comics, definitely keep them mint in box or in your slab, as it were.
Or open the slab and read those beauties.
Leave you to it, guys. See you on Saturday. Okay, catch you.
See you. Bye.